Hello everyone, today I'm going to go through how the way you talk creates the world you live in. Hello everyone, today I want to talk about language, and language is your incredible vehicle to communicate with other humans, transpose emotions, concepts and ideas, and really generates the quality of your relationships. We always know someone who's a downer or is a bit of a bummer to be around. Why are they like that? Listen to the words they say. Your words will manifest your absolute reality, I can guarantee you, because what you say is what you think, because it's a reflection of your thoughts. So, as always, I'm going to start with a quote. This quote, I think, was at the Dagobah system that it was originally quoted, and the quote goes, "Do or do not. There is no try." Actually, let me do that quote again. Do or do not. There is no try. Nah, okay. I'm not going to do the accent. Actually, watch this clip.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Fantastic. So that was Yoda, the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, and I think what he was illustrating there through his thousands of years of experience and obviously his connection with the Force was that what you say will become your reality. And one of the things that I'm very, very big on is not using the word try. Through my life, I've started to understand how people use their language as a vehicle to become a bit of a scapegoat. An example of that would be, quite often in business, people would say to me, you know what, I'll give that a try. And what they're really saying to me is that I can't guarantee you anything, but more deeper than that, if you think about the word try, to try means you can't succeed. Because if you succeed, you're no longer trying. So you're actually guaranteeing failure. Now, it might seem, quite, a minuscule thing to say try over succeed, but what you say is what you believe, and you listen to yourself as you speak, and you believe the stuff that comes out of your mouth. Trust me, a lot of people do. So that's a great example of how words can power your success. Things like replacing the word try with succeed, or even things like goals or target. Quite often people say I have a target or a goal. What I've learned in life is that you can miss the target and you can miss a goal, but you can never miss an outcome. So replacing words like target and goal with outcome is another way to drive your brain unconsciously forward. You're using these subtle signals to not give you those out clauses later on. An example of this and how powerful your mind is at creating imagery which drives you is we're going to play a simple mind experiment. I'm going to ask you one simple thing. Very, very simple, okay? And you only have to do this one thing for me. And if you can do it and you get it right, you can shut the video down. I'm completely wrong. I want you not to think of white bears. For the next 30 seconds, you cannot think of white, fluffy polar bears at all. You're not allowed to. You cannot think of these white, fluffy polar bears at all. No white, fluffy polar bears. They're not running around. They're not, white, thick fur, big teeth, giant masses on icebergs. You cannot think of those white bears. How'd you go? If you didn't think of any white bears, you can turn the video off because I'm wrong. If you did think of white bears, it's incredible insight into the fact that the language controls our thought, and we're not always in control of our thought if we're not in control of our language. So that's a real key example of people who say, oh, it doesn't matter what you say, whether I say this or say that, it doesn't matter. Well, ultimately, the visions you create in your head are a reflection of the patterns of reality. And if you're not keeping an eye on your language, you're not keeping an eye on your reality. And if you're not keeping an eye on your life, your reality, and your purpose, who is? It can end up being pretty shaky. It's important that when you're talking to people, another key insight into human language is when you say to people, you are like this, you are an idiot, or you always drive too quick, or you're always late. Those sort of always, those strong statements which label people are always, and I'm going to use that always wrong. No one is always late. You deserve a medal if you're always late. You have to accidentally be on time sometimes. So anytime you label people as always, or say that they are something, they are late, the person isn't late. They're an amazing human being that's manifested through years of biological evolution. They're incredible. They're not just late. You need to look at how you're really labeling the world. And I would suggest you start with a very simple thing. When you go to say to someone, you're a bit of an asshole, or you're just an angry person, I would suggest you reframe and say that your behavior has been one of an angry person. Because if you call someone angry, they have to defend themselves. And if you're angry, you're just going to get angry, and there's no way of really dealing with that. But if you tell someone their behavior is a certain way, we can all address our behavior and we can change our behavior. I can't change who I am, but I can change my behavior. So if you label it as behavior, I feel like I can change, and I'll change for you. But if you label me, I'm not going to change me for you. So a subtle change in how we talk can really get massive, massive results. Try that in your relationship, whether it's with your children or your partner. Talk about behavior, don't talk about them. Another one is, I should or I ought to. I mean, who's in control here? Like, are you like a primary school child? I'll start with Tony Robbins used to say that people who say should all the time end up shooting all over themselves. And I like that, because what do you mean should? I mean, you're the person who can do it. So you either do it or don't do it. You choose to do it. So if you find yourself saying, I should do this or should do that, just man up or woman up or whatever you need to do and say, I choose to do this. I will do this. In fact, I'll do it next Tuesday. Because no one is coming to your rescue. No one's coming. There is no saving grace here. You are in control of your destiny, and what you will do, you will do. Now, one of the key things that about language, now, which I've learned through Buddhism, but should apply to every principle of life. There's a book called The Lying Ape, and it's about body language, and it goes into depth about how humans, really are the only animal that deceives. We are masters at deception. Kids learn at an early age. We're constantly telling little fibs and little lies and using language to get our way. And there's one way to influence people to get a great result. It's another thing to use language to manipulate or lie. So the Buddha has a very simple technique where he would say, just speak the truth. You don't have to stop lying, just speak the truth. And when there's a lie, don't talk, just speak the truth. Now, I know this sounds very scary and difficult at the start, but speaking truth is the most powerful way to use language. We all know that a man is only as good as his word. And quite often, once you've been lied to, you rarely believe something that person says, even when it can be quite straightforward. So by speaking the truth, you take control of reality. You become an honourable person, and your word is your bond. There's a reason why they used to say things like, you're only good as your word. Because ultimately what you say is your reality. And is your reality about truth, or is it about deception? Now, you don't need to work very hard at this. Once again, as the Buddha said, just speak truth. And then when there's lies, just remain silent. And you'll really start to find a huge difference. You won't need to remember things that you said to this person or that grandma or something like that. You become more assertive and get better things into your life. And probably the final thing I want to touch on here about language is if statements. Now, once again, because we're in control of our reality through language, I hear very, very often people say things like, I couldn't do that, or I'm not that sort of person. Now, once again, the minute they say it, it might as well be true. I hear this from people who I know can do certain things. If I was, I couldn't do that because I'm not fit enough. Now, what they're really saying is, I'm not going to do that. And that's fine. But if they really want to do that, imagine if they put an if in front. So if I did do that, I guess some of the things that would happen is I'd feel better about myself, or I'd feel more successful. So anytime you go in through, just like we were saying before about labeling people, anytime you go to label a situation as a definite yes or no, it might be better just to be a bit more understanding and say, if I started doing these things in my life, it could be amazing, rather than just shutting the door on so many things. So remember, do or do not, there is no try. Master Yoda told us that, so therefore it must be true. How many times do you get space aliens dropping jewels like that? I think when they do drop jewels like that, all us humans really need to get a better understanding of that. So use language as your friend, remove the lying to yourself and to others, and get out there and create a reality through language. Thank you and goodbye. I wore this suit to give you a very serious message. That message is that I have an Instagram account now with thousands of followers. I would love you to join. So check me out at 1 Year Life Challenge on Instagram. I'd love to see you there. Heaps of photos of me topless or in a suit, and I'm happy to listen to your demands. Thank you, and check me out on Instagram.